Okay, here's the second part of the test. I'm starting with number 9. So, we're going to factor these by grouping. You should have known that because there are 4 terms. So all we're doing is factoring, not solving. So again, group the first 2, group the back 2. Front 2, we can factor out an x squared. When we divide each of these by x squared, we get x minus 3. Now we need x minus 3, so we know we got to get rid of this 9. So I factor out that positive 9, and that leaves me with x minus 3. So now again, we group what's in front. So I get x squared plus 9 and x minus 3. And that's my answer. All right. Number 10, same thing. Factor by grouping. 2 sets of parentheses. Factor, let's see, a 4x squared. That's what we can factor out. All right, so when I divide this by 4x squared, I get x. Divide that by 4x squared, I get plus 9. All right, now I need to get x plus 9 out of this, so I got to get rid of the negative sign and the 9, so I'm going to factor out a negative 9. And again, we group what's in front together. All right, now this one we have the difference of perfect squares, so it factors out further. And I'm going to give you a couple of these problems, just difference of perfect squares to factor out on the test to make up for the problems that we're missing. All right, so you're going to see a couple of these. All right, so the difference of perfect squares, just this part factors out to being 2 sets of parentheses. Square root of the first term, which is 2x, goes in each. Square root of the back term goes in the back. And signs are different. And then bring down your x plus 9. And now you have your answer. All right, so there will be just a couple of those on the test where I'm just giving you the difference of perfect squares to factor out. All right, and then this last one. If you don't notice it, you can factor something out of all these. That's fine. You can just factor by grouping. And the front 2, we can factor an x to the 4th out of it. And we get 3x minus 2. The back, we need a 3x minus 2. So we're going to factor out a, let's see, a 3x to make that a 3x. So factor out a 3x. And that gives us 3x minus 2. We group what's in front together. So x to the 4th plus 3x. And then 3x minus 2. All right. Then if you look, this one you can really factor an x out of it. So the answer you might see might have that x out front. And it might look like this. Because these are going to be multiple choice. All right. So it's probably, your answer is probably going to look like that. Because we got to factor the x out right at the beginning. And just put that as our part of our answer. All right. Next ones, we have the sum and difference of 2 cubes. All right, so again, we got to change these both into something cubed. So again, if you have that chart, 125 is 5 cubed. We get x cubed minus 5 cubed. So again, a is x, b is 5, and it's the one with the minus sign. So this factors out to a, which is x, minus b, which is 5, times a squared, which is x squared, plus a times b, x times 5 is 5x, and then plus b squared, 5 squared is 25. And we get our answer. All right. Number 13, same thing. All right, so we got to change these into cubes. So we get y cubed plus 2 cubed. Again, a is y and b is 2. So we got a, which is y, plus, because we're doing the one with the plus sign, b, which is 2. And then a, which is y, squared, minus a times b, so 2y, plus b squared, and we get 4. And there's our answer. All right? That's factoring out the sum and difference of 2 cubes. And here's a harder one, all right, because again, we got a number up front. So again, we're going to change this to 5 cubed x cubed minus 2 cubed. So that makes that 5x cubed minus 2 cubed. All right, so now a is 5x and b is 2. So we have a, which is 5x, the one with the minus sign, b, which is 2. All right, and then a squared. Now we got to square the 5 and the x. So it's going to be 25x squared plus a times b, 5x times 2 is 10x. And then plus b squared, 2 squared gives us 4. And we have our answer. All right, number 15. This is really the one about knowing about the differences in the graphs. All right, so remember our formula. Our formula was f of x equals a x minus h squared plus k. All right, now they messed us up a little bit because in their formula that they're giving us, their k is just our a. All right, so remember what the a does. It can make it open up, it can make it open down, or it could be wider or thinner. So make sure you remember that. Now, their C is what RK is. So remember, RK, this one would move it up or down. Well, if you look, it's moved up 2 spaces. So that means that K was positive 2. So that means their C is positive 2. If you go down here, you can see this is positive 2. That's a negative 2, so it can't be that one. Can't be that one. All right? So now we got it narrowed down. Now, we just got to look at the A. Remember, if it's greater than 1, it makes it thinner. If it's less than 1, it makes it wider. In this case, this is thinner than y was x squared. All right? So since it's thinner, that means that it is bigger than 1. So the answer here would be G. All right. And then the last one I'm having you do, all right, on here is this one. All right, so they want the average rate of change, which again, you should remember average rate of change means slope. That's why your slope formula is here. And they want it over the first 3 seconds. So what you have to do is you have to find out where it is when t equals 0 and where it is when t equals 3. That is over the first 3 seconds, where it begins and then at the end of the 3 seconds. So basically we got to plug a 0 in here for this one, and when we plug a 0 in, we get h of 0 equals 2. All right, and then we got to plug the 3 in. Then we got to find h of 3. So now we got to put 2 plus 46.5 times 3 minus 3.5 times 3 squared. All right, and that gives us h of 3 equals 2 plus. And I'm using my calculator just to make sure I get it right. All right, so all I got to do is 46.5 times 3, and that gives me 139.5. And then that's minus 3 squared gives me 9, so I need 9 times 3.5. And that's 31.5. And then I add these two together, it gives me 141.5 minus 31.5. And 141.5 minus 31.5 gives me 110. All right, so we found that. Now, that gives us our 2 points. That's what that does. All right, so all it does is gives us 2 points. So our 2 points are here, 0, 2, and 3, 110. Now we use the slope formula to find the average rate of change, which again, average rate of change means slope. So using our slope formula, I got y2, which I'm going to make that be y2. That's going to be x1. This will be y1, and this will be x1. So 110 minus 2 over 3 minus 0. So now I have 108 divided by 3. And 108 divided by 3 is, let's see, 36. All right? So the average rate of change is 36, and it's in meters per second. Yep, meters per second. All right, and that's my answer. That's how you do that problem. All right, and you can just skip this one, and you can skip the back one. You don't have to do that. Again, I will have a couple problems for the difference of two squares and stuff like that. So that's just taking a problem like x squared minus 25 and factoring it out to x plus 5 times x minus 5. All right, so that's our difference of two squares. So I'll put a couple of those problems on there, and they should be easy for you. And that's the review for our test.